Tully, directed by Jason Reitman, is a film about a struggling mother of three played by Charlize Theron. This mom named Marlo is overwhelmed with the full-time, never-ending job that is being a mom, and she feels like she's trapped in her painfully difficult world of raising three young children. Well, eventually Marlo hires a night nanny to look after her newborn daughter late at night, and the two form a unique bond that helps provide Marlo some sort of light into her bleak life outlook. As mom life gets harder and harder, Marlo attempts to rebound with some extra help. Alright, so what drew me into the theater to see Tully was Charlize Theron, because even though Jason Reitman directed this film and he also directed Juno, a movie that a lot of people really enjoy, including myself, Charlize Theron was the primary draw here. And when I watched the trailers, I just got a sense that Charlize Theron would excel in this role because it looked as if she was very committed and very locked into this seemingly pretty grounded character. And not surprisingly, she's the biggest bright spot in a film that I'd say is pretty good, but it's not amazing, it's good. Tully is a film that very clearly has a message it wants to send, and it sends that message through its story that's overflowing with realism. That message is that being a mom is difficult, far more difficult than most of us realize, and it just takes a toll on these mothers that just have such heavy burdens placed on their shoulders with little to no backup sometimes. There's a realistic story about a mom that's doing her best to balance a number of different things at once, but ultimately is struggling to handle the insane amount of things she has on her plate. Because oftentimes in the real world, we don't empathize with other people, we don't sympathize with them sometimes. Most of us are just so focused on our own day-to-day routine that we just lose sight of what other people are going through. And we can often totally miss the fact that those close to us need our help. And it seems to me as if Jason Reitman was really focused on driving that message home to the audience. More specifically about how we often underappreciate the extremely difficult jobs that moms everywhere have. Not surprisingly, Charlize Theron does an excellent job in this role. And I think she does a lot of the heavy lifting here, because Marlo is an interesting character in the sense that she's very normal and very sympathetic, but there's a lot of subtlety and nuance built into the performance that end up doing wonders for the character and the film itself. I don't think this is an Oscar-winning performance, but I do think it's probably an Oscar nomination-worthy performance, in part because of the dedication to the role, considering Charlize Theron gained a bunch of weight and really became her character, but also just because of how important she is to this movie. She elevates the overall quality quite a bit. But I was also really impressed with Mackenzie Davis, who plays Tully the night nanny. She was great too, and I liked how she brought sort of a free spirit vibe to the story and brought Marlo out of her comfort zone. Because the dynamic that exists between Marlo and Tully is probably the best part of the film besides Charlize Theron's performance. Once Tully comes into the picture, I feel like the film really hits its stride and started to take things to the next level and ascend to a higher quality experience overall. The whole relationship works because Tully reminds Marlo of a life that she used to live, a life that was simpler and less stressful. And I think having the two characters sort of share their drastically different outlooks on life with one another helps just illustrate how much our perceptions and even personalities evolve over the course of adulthood. So yeah, there's a lot of cool ideas floating around in this movie, but I will say that as a movie-going experience, I don't think this is the most entertaining of films. This movie is only an hour and a half long, but there were definitely times where I felt like it was sort of dragging its feet through a lot of the same monotonous routines. And this is probably by design, honestly, considering that they want you to feel the weight of Marlo's overwhelmingly difficult, daily, monotonous challenges. But I felt that entertainment-wise, you may have some people checking their phone for the time in the theater. So here's something I consider both a pro and a con. There's a point in the film where things reach a turning point, I guess you could say, where the relationship between Tully and Marlo has become so important to each of them that it's difficult to envision their lives without one another. And the film elects to go one specific direction with it that I actually really liked because it felt meaningful, but on the same token, it's a little more difficult to grasp the relevance of the other surrounding parts of the story with that section in there, with that direction. I can't say much more than that, honestly, but for now, I'll just leave it at that. I liked it overall, I liked how the movie ends, but it's also a little problematic as well. So I want to talk a little bit more about the character growth that happens here. I think that Marlo and Tully both grow a lot over the course of the film, and I liked how simple gestures of kindness and support just go a very long way here. Marlo feels like she doesn't have any support whatsoever before Tully arrives, and Tully acts as a support system that Marlo simply doesn't have otherwise. Again, this movie is heavily focused on showing you the extreme difficulties of motherhood, and we're seeing that through Marlo. She often looks absolutely exhausted, extremely overwhelmed, and after Tully arrives, she almost becomes a new person entirely. She becomes her old self in a way. I think that Tully as a film really nails the character growth aspects. But as we wrap up, let's take a look at the pros cons. As for the pros, I thought Charlize Theron and Mackenzie Davis were both excellent. They really went the extra mile here. The gritty realism of the story was very immersive, the character growth was very well done, and the ending was insightful. As for the cons, sometimes the film lacks high levels of entertainment, and there's some problematic aspects created due to an artistic decision, I guess you could say. Overall, I'm going to give Tully an 8 out of 10, and recommend you check it out in theaters if you're looking for a drama with lots of realism to it. I don't think this is an amazing film, but it's certainly worth a watch if you're interested. So did you guys see Tully yet? What did you think of it? And if not, let me know why not. And also let me know your favorite Charlize Theron movie. Obviously Mad Max for me. Either way, this is WillFoxification signing off. See you in the next review.